you know, like if we go and craft another rune here, if this rune looks like it has, oh, it rolled flat HP. That's too bad. But it still rolled speed. What is going on, summoners? We're back today to talk about runes. I have had a lot of you guys asking me in the comments, and especially in Twitch chat, how to rune a monster, what runes do I look for, what stats am I wanting on these monsters, and I really just kind of wanted to go over a beginner's guide to runes. Okay, this isn't going to be a super in-depth guide into efficiency and grinding and gemming and reapping. We'll cover that in another video. That is not for this one. So for now, I want to talk about what runes are, what kind of runes are out there, what are we looking at with everything. We'll go over some of the basic terminology that is common in the Summoners War community, and how to rune monsters, how to prioritize your runes, and ultimately looking for the best and most efficient stats that we can get onto your teams to find success in your dungeon runs. So one of the first things you guys will come across with runes, you'll be going through your early game scenario tutorial, and you're going to come across an energy rune in the Garen Forest. You're going to get to put that onto your water fairy monster, and you get to power it up once. You'll see that it gains a power up. The main stat on the rune goes up by a little bit, and that's really as far as the tutorial kind of takes you. I think later on you get to power up runes a little bit more, and it might touch a little bit more on that, but for the most part you're left to figure that out on your own. So that's where there's a lot of other content out there on YouTube that goes over runes and whatnot. A lot of them are, you know, a little bit higher level. I want to be a basic video. So the first thing I want to go over is the different kinds of runes out there. Okay, so we kind of know that there are set bonuses for all the different kinds of runes out there. We have either a 2-set bonus, meaning you have to have at least 2 of the runes the same type equipped on your monster in order to get the rune set bonus, or there's 4-set bonuses, and then you can put 6 runes on a single monster. So you can actually triple up or double up on your 2-set rune bonuses, or you can have a 4-set rune bonus and a 2-set rune bonus. So I will cover a little bit more detail on that as we progress in the video, but right now I want to go over what these set bonuses are, what runes you're going to be encountering. So we're here in the scenario where you're going to be kind of taking your first few steps into the Summoners War, and each of these scenario stages has a chance to drop a specific type of rune. The first one you're going to encounter is the energy rune. It's a 2-set rune bonus, and for every 2 sets that you have on your monster, you're going to get an additional 15% of your base HP on that monster. Obviously very handy for early game and for just getting enough defensive stats to be able to take a few hits while the rest of your team is able to do damage. It is primarily used on support units. Our next battle goes into Mount Sizz. Mount Sizz is going to be where you get your first 4-set rune bonus, and it gives you a 35% extra attack on whatever monster you have a 4-set bonus equipped on. So you need 4 fatal runes on that monster in order to get this bonus. Now, I'm going to make a little tangent here because this is a good opportunity, I feel, to talk about stats over sets. Okay, ultimately, you know, completing a set is really nice to get that set bonus. And as you push later into the game, that is something that's going to become a lot more achievable as your rune pool grows. But early game, it's going to be rare that you're actually going to really try to complete a set, because you'll actually find that you're going to get more of the stats you need by putting broken sets on your monsters. It's just often how it goes. You might get a really good set as part of the tutorial guide. It does give you some really nice rune sets, so it will help you with progression, and it depends how those runes roll. So your first 4 set will be Fatal from Mount Sis for a bonus 35% attack. If you can complete the set and you hit the other stats that you need on your monsters, great. If you need to break up the sets in order to hit the stats you need on the monsters, though getting those stats on the monsters is far more important, you guys. All right, moving on. We go into, I believe the Kabir Ruins are next. Or is it Mount White Ragon? I cannot remember which one's next. Let's see. So that one's Swift. I think the Kabir Ruins is Blade. Yes, okay. So Blade gives you, it's another 2-set bonus, and this is a very nice 2-set bonus. Gives you an additional 12% critical hit chance, critical rate. Obviously very, very good to pair up with that previous Fatal set if you're able to. Next up, we have Mount White Ragon. It is going to give you your second 4 set, and it's going to be a Swift, and it's going to give you an extra 25% speed on your monsters when you complete this set. So something I just want to mention, you guys, all of these rune set bonuses, they are based off of your monster's base stats, not your total stats including your other stats acquired from runes. Only the base stats of the monster. So the only thing that impacts that is obviously the level of your monster. So getting your monsters to 6-star level 40 is going to give them their highest base stats. So these multiplicative effects are going to have the biggest output, biggest change to your monsters. Moving on, we go to the Tulane Forest, where we encounter another 2-set bonus, the Focus Rune, which gives your monsters an additional 20% accuracy. This can be really good for monsters where you really need to apply debuffs to your enemy, and you want to make sure you have enough accuracy that you're maximizing your chances to land that. The way accuracy resistance works in this game, there's always going to be a chance for monsters to resist your debuffs. But this, having the additional accuracy on there, really increases your chances to win that dice roll. Moving on, we've got the Haideni Ruins. You get another defensive support unit or defense damage-based unit rune here. The Guard Rune is another 2-set, which gives you an additional 15% defense. Next up, we have Temor Desert, and this gives you a 2-set rune bonus. The Endure Rune gives you an additional 20% resistance to help you fight against getting debuffed by your opponent. Again, accuracy and resistance is a dice roll. No matter how many of the stats you have, just the more you have of one over the other, the better your chances at winning that dice roll. And in PvE content, there are caps on accuracy and resistance. The Vrophagus Ruins gives you a shield rune, a 2-set bonus that gives all of your allies a shield for 3 turns that is equivalent to 15% of your HP. Now, unlike my previous caveat where the percent bonus affects only your base stats, this actually affects your total HP. This is the exception, not the rule. Okay, so obviously if you can stack a lot of HP on a support unit and you want to have a little bit of extra shield for the rest of your allies that may be a little bit squishier because they're damage dealers, the shield rune set can play a really nice bonus to give your team a really nice chunk of HP from a monster that is inherently designed to have a lot of HP. All right, into the Phaemon Volcano. You guys will become very familiar with this stage as it is the primary stage for farming experience to level up your monsters and level up your evolution fodder. What you're going to see dropped here a lot is the Revenge Rune. It's a 2-set rune that gives your monster a 15% chance to counterattack when they are attacked. This is actually a really nice rune set that is used well into late game PvP for some monsters because their ability to counterattack can really turn the tide of battle into your favor with even just one counterattack. And you can get it up to 45% counterattack on the monster if you equip all 6 of your rune slots with revenge runes, so you complete 3 sets. All right, into the Aiden Forest, we have probably the most important 2-set bonus as you push into late game. This is primarily a PvP rune set. Will gives your monster immunity for 1 turn. So you start the battle with immunity, which means you can't receive any debuffs. They have to strip that immunity buff off of you or steal it in order to apply debuffs to you until you get a turn, which will obviously, you'll lose it because it's a 1-turn immunity. Now you can make it up to a 2-turn or 3-turn immunity if you increase the number of set bonuses on that monster. If you go for all 6 runes as well, you can have 3 turns of immunity. I really don't ever see that in late game PvP practice because the other 4 slots are filled by much better options that are going to give your teams more advantage and more chances to win. Farron Castle will be next, and this is where we see the Nemesis rune. So the Nemesis rune is kind of a unique rune. Its 2-set bonuses, it gives you 4% of your attack bar, 4% for every 7% of your HP that is lost. So you can stack this up to get 8 or even 12% of your attack bar for every 7% HP lost. It does not become 21% HP lost. If you triple it up. But this could be really good, you know, on a monster like a support unit, a support healer. If you're about to take a lot of damage and you need to recover before and cut in your turn before the enemy can finish you off, that is kind of what Nemesis. You'll see this built into a lot of tanky healing units on arena defenses, and because you'll dish out a whole bunch of damage to their defense. The idea is that their healer is built to be strong enough to survive that, and probably the rest of the team too. But then the Nemesis runes allows that healer, because they've lost so much of their HP, to cut in front of your next damage dealer and take a turn to heal their team back up, or to boost your team's attack bar so that they can maybe take a turn away from you and have a chance to come back and kill you. All right, on to Mount Runar. This is where we're going to get the Vampire Rune. So the Vampire Rune is also kind of unique. It's a 4-set bonus, and basically you heal for 35% of the damage you do, whether it's your turn or your revenge attacking, counter-attacking during your opponent's turn. Any damage you deal, you'll heal back 35% of that damage. Can be really, really nice depending on the content. It can give you a little bit of flexibility about not needing to take in, you know, a main healer or even a healer at all into certain content, because you can bring a Vampire Rune in, and you guys will come to see after you clear the final stage that we're going to go into right now, the Chiruka Remains. You'll actually get a Vampire Revenge set to put on your Lapis, so she can be a farmer and solo to level up 3 fodders rather than you needing to take in, you know, multiple of your strong monsters to clear content. So the final rune set in the scenario that you're going to encounter will be at the Chiruka Remains, and it is going to be the Destroy set. Okay, so this is also kind of a unique set. It's got very, very few applicable scenarios where you will want to put this on monsters. There's only a handful of monsters that this set really kind of shines on. Everything else, it's not worth it, to be honest. There's better options. It's a 2-set bonus, and it destroys the enemy's max HP by 4% or 30% of your damage dealt, whichever is the lesser of the two. So it's either you deal 30% of your damage, you destroy that much of their max HP. So their max HP actually gets reduced by that much, in addition to the damage you do, which will deplete their current HP by as much as the damage you do. The destroy destroys the max HP. So their HP bar will start to turn red as that grows. But you can only destroy a maximum of their max HP of 4% per attack. So it's really meant to go on units that have a lot of innate survivability and are meant to just kind of whittle you down over time. There is a max. I think you can only destroy up to like 50 or 70% of the enemy's max HP. You can't destroy it right down to nothing. So in the end, if you still can't kill them at that stage, this battle could go on forever. Seen it happen. All right. So that is kind of it for the scenarios. Now, one thing you guys will have noticed throughout playing the game and through the scenario tutorial is that each of these stages kind of corresponds to a rune slot. 1 through 6 counts 3 or 1 through 6 rune slots. In stage 7, any slot has a chance to drop. So what I'm kind of talking about with that is rune slots, right? You got 1, and you'll notice the bracket next to Nemesis rune, bracket 1, that indicates slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, slot 4, slot 5, slot 6. Please don't judge my runes. It is what it is. I'll go ahead, judge away. I don't care. I don't use this monster very often anymore. So that's your slots 1 through 6. Now, the other thing that you're going to notice a lot of is variations in rune quality. You're going to see different color runes dropping, and you're going to see runes with different stars dropping, and you'll probably notice that the big number on those runes changes as you do that. All right, guys, so we're here in the Kairos dungeons now, and in here there's 3 dungeons that you can farm to get runes. Each of these dungeons has their own unique rune set, and as well as several runes that we found in the scenario, so that actually all the runes that we found in the scenario will be also obtainable in one of these 3 dungeons. So with that, let's have a look at the Giant's Keep. So Giant's Keep, the unique set is a Despair set. This is a 4-set bonus, and it gives that monster a 25% chance to stun the enemy with every attack. Actually can be pretty lucrative. Okay. You also get the Energy set, the Fatal set, the Blade set, and Swift set that have already discussed here as well. And you get Symbol of Harmony. So the symbols actually, the primary is unique to each dungeon. So you get the Harmony in Giants, the Transcendence in Dragons, and Chaos in Necropolis, meaning they drop at their highest quantity, somewhere in the 10 to 12 range, for the primary dungeon. Now you can also get the other crafting materials in each dungeon, but they just drop at about a 50% quantity in like the 5 to 6 range typically. So Dragons, the unique rune set here is a 4-set bonus called the Violent rune, and it gives your monster a 22% chance at the end of their turn to gain an additional turn. This is probably the strongest, most OP, most tilting rune set in the game. It is extremely versatile because you can put it on almost any monster. Almost every monster in the game is going to benefit from getting an extra turn. It's very common to be used on a lot of defense monsters for Siege, Guild War, and Arena defense. It's also extremely common in RTA, and typically you will find it paired up with Will runes. Not to say other rune sets aren't used in these areas, they certainly are. Violent is just probably the most widespreadly used and extremely versatile in terms of, you can have slow units, fast units, tanky, damage dealers. You can do it all but you're stat chasing. So you're going after a lot of stats. So people farm these like crazy. It's probably also the most commonly bought rune type for people that do spend in the game. So there you go. Focus, Guard, Endure, Shield, and Revenge are also all obtainable here at higher rarities and valid grades and star levels than in the scenario. Finally, you have the Necropolis here. The unique is the Rage set. This is a 40% crit damage boost to that monster when you complete the 4-set on the monster. Really good for your main damage dealers. Great for monsters like Lucian that ignore defense and can do a ton of damage, as well as your single targets like Crow or Sigmars as well. In the Necropolis, you'll also get Will, Nemesis, Vampire, and Destroy. And again, with each of these, you do get rune crafting materials, so you can take those crafting materials into the crafting building and craft runes there. From the Kairos dungeons, the next rune set that you would find would be here in the Rift of Worlds in any of the 5 elemental rift dungeons. There's no unique runes to the individual elements. Each element has the same chance to drop any of the runes available here. And these are kind of unique runes. They're not available through any other means of regular farming in the game. You can craft them. You can get them like any other rune from World Boss or Labyrinth drops. But typically, you'll need to farm them here or farm the materials to craft them here. You can get... The fight set is certainly the most sought after out of all these. These are all team-based rune sets. They're 2 set bonuses, and they give your entire team a boost in whatever stat it is. So fight is typically the most common because people will put 1, 2, or even 3 of these sets onto their support units paired up with their damage dealers to increase the amount of damage that their damage dealers actually can do by quite a bit. Depending on the content you're running, you might see determination enhance or tolerance used as well. I don't really see accuracy used very often unless you get really good rolls on the rune. So these aren't super sought after. Fight sets are very handy to have if you can hit the speed and stats that you need on them. So that's the Rift of Worlds and Rift Dungeons. We also have now the Dimensional Hole. And in the Dimensional Hole is a totally different side of things. You guys definitely want to be at an early game grinding up your Second Awaken units. You won't really be able to maximize your ability to farm runes in these things. They take pretty strong monsters with already really good runes on them in order to do it. But you can get crafting materials by farming your Second Awakens so that you can get these same runes that are available. But these are ancient runes. They are not available anywhere else except from here or by crafting. You can't even buy these runes in the game, okay? And the ancient runes, their main stats are the same, but their substats have actually a higher roll range than traditional runes of the same type. So in this first one, the Forest of Roaring Beasts, you can get Rage Runes, Ancient Rage Runes, Ancient Energy, Ancient Blade, Ancient Endure, and Ancient Nemesis. And again, the really big advantage here is that you get to just get higher substats than what you can on other runes. So that is the Forest of Roaring Beasts here in the Karzan Remains in the Alunia dimension. Under Sanctuary of Dreaming Fairies, we can get Despair, we can get Endure, Nemesis, Will, or Accuracy, all is ancient. So this is probably the most common one people farm because they are after Despair and definitely Will. Ancient runes, very valuable, and for a really good rune to drop, it's difficult to obtain, as well as the ancient gems and grindstones to enhance these runes can only be found here as well. You can't farm them through traditional means. Finally, in Lumel, the Cliff of Tough Beastmen, you can get the Ancient Vampire, Ancient Energy, Ancient Guard, Ancient Will, and Ancient Destroy. So this one is also well farmed, I think because this dimension came out after the Alunia one, that it is not farmed by as many people. Vampire is definitely a valuable set that you would want to try to get some good ancient runes of if you can. But I think the other one people go after more because they've built teams for that already, so they just go with that one. But that is ancient runes, you guys. So I talked a bit about crafting materials and crafting and stuff, and at the start of the video we were kind of in this view already, but in the crafting building here, you can go in and select runes to craft based on the materials you have. You can craft low rune, mid rune, or high rune, and you'll notice that at low rune you can only craft 3 to 5 star grade monster, normal grade or above, and mid rune is 4 to 6 magic grade or above, and high rune is 5 to 6 rare grade or above. So at no point in time, at no point in your game should you ever be crafting low or mid runes unless you specifically need a really weak rune that you're never going to power up. And I can think of one scenario where that's a thing. If you're early game and you get enough materials to craft a low rune, don't do it, just save. Save until you get enough to craft a high rune, then craft a high rune, and you have a chance at getting one of the best runes on your account really early on. by doing that. So you can craft any of the runes that we just went over, with the exception of ancient runes, in here, providing you have the materials. So anything that you would find in the giants, any runes that would drop in the giants dungeon side of things, they will require the green symbol as its primary stat, and they will require the Necropolis one as a secondary. Now again, they do also drop, the Necropolis ones and the Dragons ones do drop in giants as well, just lower quantities, right? And then you can craft the rune. Easy peasy, you've seen us do this, you'll see it happen again later in the video. We craft a rune. That one wasn't a good for me, so I can sell it right then and there. Otherwise, we keep it and then we go on and we move on to roll it. Now, if we go to move to a will rune that would normally drop in the Necropolis, the Necropolis is the primary crafting material here. Dragons is the secondary, and again, you craft it just the same, and the same would go with something that drops from the Dragons dungeon. Now, looking at what might drop from our dimensional hole, they require different materials altogether, and these ones are definitely a little bit more resource intensive to craft. So unless you're really trying to min-max something, I would avoid crafting these, because these materials are better used to do other things early game before you can clear these dungeons on a high level and get more drops. All right, so ancient runes have their own crafting. So the ancient rune crafting materials are a little bit different. They only drop in the Second Awakening dungeons. So while you're farming Second Awakening experience, these will drop there. Okay, and the materials are a lot less. They are unique to the dimension that you're in. Okay, so we just went into the Lumel dungeon side of things, because that's where I've been farming my Second Awakening experience recently for a werewolf, and we see we've got a couple crafts here. So it comes out as an ancient rune. You'll notice that on the right side where it has the rare tag, there's an A with like a little flame symbol in the middle of it. That's to indicate that it's an ancient rune. You can also tell by the rune thumbnail, it has a little bit of a glow about it, and the crit damage and accuracy both rolled above what their normal maximum range rolls would be, because like I said, the ancient ones are a little bit higher for their base rolls. So that is about it for all the ways to really acquire runes outside of, say, world boss, or doing clearing your giants for your daily mission to get a random rune. You get runes from obviously your calendar reward twice a month or 3 times a month, and you can get random runes in the labyrinth as well. So there's other ways to get random runes, but in terms of farming runes and focusing what you're farming for, these are the ways that you do it. So let's go and farm up a rune, see if we can't get ourselves a white rune, and we'll kind of go over and talk about some rarity grades and how sub properties work. Perfect. All right. So as you guys can see, we got a powerful energy rune. This is a great example to get us into the conversation of star level as well as rarity, or grade as it might be called in the game. So our star level in this rune is a 3-star rune. Just like monsters, you can have 1 to 6 star runes. The higher the star level, the greater the base stats can be. I will link in the description below a link to a Reddit post that has all of the ranges at which stats can roll based on the rune's star level. Now, we can never change the star level of the rune. Whatever it drops at is what it will be forever, okay? So a 3-star rune here gives us an accuracy of 4% on the main stat. Now, the main stat always has the same value. There's no range for it to roll in. It's a set static value, and it increases by a set amount with every power up. So let's take this rune. Okay, we're gonna go back and we'll have a quick look at it. So we'll go over here, we'll go find it. There we are. Okay, so it starts out with a main stat of accuracy plus 4%. Now the attack plus 2% that's there is actually called an innate stat. That stat can never be changed, ever. on this rune. It is a random chance. It might not even be there. Some runes don't even have an innate stat. It's a random chance for it to be there. It's a random chance at what it will be, and it's a random chance at what range it will roll. It rolls in the same range as your substats, which we will get into. So as we, and an innate stat is also indicated by the name of the rune. So this is a powerful energy rune. Powerful is the prefix for an attack percent innate. As you can see, this rune is just an energy rune because it has no innate stat. And so every different innate stat will have a different prefix name in the title of the rune. Just a unique thing they do. Okay, so if we power this up, so in your tutorial, you got to power up an energy rune, not dislike this one, to +1, right? And you saw that, okay, the main stat, it went up. In this case, it goes up by 2% accuracy. So any 3-star rune with accuracy as its main stat, regardless of what set it belongs to, will go up by 2%. So we'll power this up a little bit further here. And well, when we get to +3, you guys may notice that we gained an additional stat down below, and it turned into a green or a magic grade rune. So every 3 levels of rune quality, every 3 levels of rune power up, we change color. We gain a rarity grade. And that rarity grade is synonymous to how many substats we have on the rune, up to 4, which we will get with a legendary or orange rune. And that comes at +12. Now, this substat that we got, attack +7, that is a random chance, and that actually has a range at which it can roll. Again, that'll be in the Reddit post that's linked down below in the description. So we can power this up all the way to +6 now, and we'll see that it's going to go to a blue rune or a rare grade rune. And we should gain an additional substat. We see the acquired bonus properties, orange text come up on the right. It powers up, we get defense +4. Okay. Again, we can now go up to +9. After we hit +8, when we're trying to get to +9, you'll see that orange text come up on the right again underneath the defense +4 to indicate that at the next power up level, we gain a bonus to our substats. This is not abnormal, by the way, to see a rune fail many, many, many times before it succeeds. And the chance for success gets lower and lower the higher you go. All right, so +9, we can see this turned into a purple or hero grade rune. And we gained a third substat here of resistance +4%. All right, moving on. Oops, did not mean to cancel out. Sorry. We're going to go to +12 finally. So next we're going to see, I don't like how it shows in this view how the innate stat for attack percent is kind of in the same column as the other substats. It can be a little misleading to read if you're not really used to looking at a lot of runes. It still catches me off guard fairly often. I hope that's something that'll change. You'll notice when we get the power up results screen that comes up next, well, after we hit +12 anyway, we hit our goal, or if we run out of mana, it'll give us the power up results, or if we hit stop, it'll give us the power up results. That the innate stat will actually be offset. It'll be in a slightly different column of stats than the substats, so it's really easy to see the difference. All right, one more to go. This rune is costing me a lot more mana than I intended it to cost for this video. Come on, come to us. What are you doing here? We're trying to make educational content. This is not abnormal at all. I've lost millions into single runes many times. Anybody who's played this game long enough and powers up runes to +15, especially 6-star runes, the higher star level you go in runes, the more expensive each power up level becomes. All right, so we gained HP +4%. as the final substat here. And as you can see, it turned orange, and we now have a legend grade rune at plus 12. So legend grade is synonymous, again, having 4 substats. And like I was saying, in this view of the rune, I really like, because the innate stat is offset and over underneath the main stat where it belongs, and the substats are on the left, so that you can easily see what they are and differentiate them from the rest. That becomes important for gemming and grinding your runes later on. That is not something that we are going to worry about right now. It is not a beginner rune thing to worry about. It's not a beginner Summoner's War thing to worry about. Okay, so we have a legend grade rune. So now we know kind of what rune sets are. We know what slots each rune can roll in. We know that main stat is a fixed amount. We know that substats and innate stats are random and have a range at which the stat can roll. Okay, so for example, on a 3-star rune, as per the Reddit document I was talking about, that attack plus 2% innate, it could roll anywhere between 2% to 5%. Okay, the attack plus 7 flat attack, that could roll anywhere from 3 to 8. Defense, so attack, defense, and HP all share the same ranges. Okay, percentages and flat are 2 separate things. As you can see, we've got attack percent and flat attack on this rune. We could have defense percent and flat defense, HP percent and flat HP on this rune. The resistance can roll 2 to 4, so we got a maximum roll on the resistance. Okay, so we just talked about rolling up a rune to increase its rarity, or its grade, if you will, and getting those additional substats. Now, something we didn't really talk about, or the next kind of evolution of that conversation, is runes, and you will have seen this by now, actually drop at plus 0 with these different rarities and substats already on them, right? So when a rune drops with these substats already on them, let's craft one for an example here. So this dropped as a blue rune, a rare quality rune off the start, and it's got 2 substats on it already. We got defense plus 14 and accuracy plus 8. So if we take that rune, okay, let's go over here, find it. It's gonna be way at the end. Okay, if we power this one up to plus 3, what do you think is going to happen, right? We're already past the green quality of rune. We still get power up bonus properties now. Instead of acquiring bonus properties, we power up bonus properties. So there's a difference in that orange text on the right. And our defense, our flat defense, went up by 15. So now it's plus 29. Now, our next power up to plus 6, it's gonna, as you guys imagine, do the same thing. Whether or not it hits defense or accuracy is completely random, okay? We hit defense again. All right. So the first roll, both of these rolls could have gone into accuracy. Both of them went into defense. We could have had one go in each one. The bonus roll into these substats has the same range as the initial bonus. So for a 6-star rune, okay, flat defense can roll anywhere from 10 to 20. So if we're looking at this rune, right now as a plus 6, that defense of 41, its maximum roll could have been 60. Its minimum roll could have been 30, because we got the base roll, we got the plus 3 roll, and we got the plus 6 roll into that flat defense, right? So that's 3 potential rolls there. So this is almost a 50% efficiency bonus on that flat defense roll. Now, flat defense is not really a substat you guys are going to look for as you push later in the game. Early game substat rolls, you're just going to take what you can. But this, knowing what the ranges are that things can roll at, you can look at a rune when it drops from your scenario or from your giants or dragons runs and kind of assess what is the potential of this rune. Okay, this rune, it's got, flat defense and accuracy on it. with a flat attack main stat. Is it ever really something that I'm going to use as a slot 2 rune? This rune, probably not. I don't care what stage of the game you're at, you're probably not going to use this rune in particular. I mean, if you're very, very early game, you're not going to be getting a 6-star rune anyway. Okay, so we've gone over rune sets. We've gone over the 6 slots. Actually, I want to go back to the 6 slots again, because we're going to now talk about main stats on runes. So your main stats, especially when you're first starting out, they are going to be the primary focus when you're runing up a monster. You're going to want to hit the main stats because that is going to give you the biggest jump in stats for your monsters, okay? So when we talk about main stats, the first thing I want to mention is slot 1, slot 3, and slot 5, okay? Slot 1, the main stat is always flat attack. There is no change to it, okay? It is always flat attack. Slot 3 is always flat defense. Slot 5 is always flat HP, okay? Those don't ever change. They can never be something else. So slot 1, 3, 5, you're not going to be looking for a variation of main stats. In slot 1, 3, 5, your variation in stats for building your monsters is going to come from sets, and it's going to come from substats. Substats being the primary focus at all times. Okay, I could even go through and show you here. Like these are some new toy monsters I got. And you can see that just to hit some good stats on him, because I can't hit anywhere close to these stats on the rune sets that I would want him on. So I put him on a completely broken one to hit the stats. He's a new toy. We just summoned him. That video is going to be coming up. It's actually probably already up on the channel. It's probably already there. I think that one's going to be coming up first. Anyways. Slots 2, 4, 6 is where you get some flexibility on how you want to build your units. Now, how you build it and the main stat that you choose is going to play a large role, is played by what that monster's purpose on your team is. Is it a support unit that heals? Is it a support unit that applies buffs to your team and debuffs to the enemy team? Is it a damage dealing unit? What kind of damage does it do? And what is the turn order that you want your team to have? That will kind of determine where to put speed and whatnot. So slot 2, each of these slots has unique main stats and main stats that are shared. So the shared main stat between slots 2, 4, 6 is going to be attack percent, flat attack, HP percent, flat HP, defense percent, and flat defense. Okay, in almost every scenario, you do not want the flats version of any of those stats on slot 2, 4, 6. You want the percent version, because as you're leveling up your monsters and evolving them and leveling them up, your base stats increase. And again, it's your base stat that all these percentages for your main and your substats are based off of, not the total rune stats, just the base of the monster. But as your base stats increases, percent values are multiplicative. They increase in the bonus that they give, whereas a flat stat stays the same. So as your monsters are leveling up and becoming stronger, you're going to far exceed the rune bonus from a percent rune over a flat rune. So attack percent, defense percent, HP percent are what you're looking for if those are the stats you need in slot 2, 4, 6. The flat ones you don't want. Now, on slot 2, you can also get speed. Speed is probably the most common stat that you will find used on most monsters in slot 2. As you push later into the game, especially into PvP side of things, speed is king. So everybody wants their units to be super fast, right? The faster, the better. Turn order still very much matters, and something that we'll get into in a different video called speed tuning is actually very important as you push into the upper levels. But that is an end game thing. That is not for this video. Turn order is certainly important at all areas of the game though, right? If you're if your attack buffer and defense breaker move after your damage dealers, that's a problem, right? You want to maximize the damage you can do, not apply all your debuffs and buffs after you've already hit with your biggest skills, right? So turn order is important. So you might put speed on some of your support units to ensure that they go first, and then you would put damage such as attack percent on slot 2 on your damage dealers to ensure that they are delivering their maximum damage. Okay. Now, as far as slot 2 unique roles go, I believe that is really it. It's just speed. In slot 4, okay, one of the most common things you're going to see on any damage dealer is going to be crit damage. This is a main stat that is unique to slot 4. The other main stat that is unique to slot 4 is going to be crit rate. Okay, now these are all 6-star runes, powered all the way up to plus 15, so you can see that this is the maximum value of the main stat for these runes. So, you would use crit rate rune here on a monster that you want to have extremely high or 100% critical hit chance due to the monster's skills, right? Having 100% critical hit chance might be a requirement for some skills, or it might increase the activation chance of some skills to really provide the maximum efficiency from the monster. Crit damage is used because 80% crit damage over 63% attack, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck on each hit with the higher crit damage. Now, conversely, you have to have good crit rate if you're going to have high crit damage, because if you don't crit, the crit damage is meaningless. But almost always crit damage is preferred over attack, unless the monster has primary skills that you're looking to boost that don't benefit from crit damage, such as bombs or HP scaling damage. Actually, HP scaling damage does still benefit from crit damage depending on how it is. Anyways, side point. Slot 6 has 2 unique stats for its main stat. As we already saw, accuracy is one of them, and conversely, resistance would be the other. You don't really see resistance. It's very, very rarely used, only in very rare scenarios. Accuracy is certainly used on certain monsters that you really need them to land their debuffs or strip the enemy's buffs. So you'll use accuracy to maximize the chance that you have at winning that dice roll. So that talks about main stats. So that is all the main stats you're going to get. We kind of touched base on substats already. Any stat in the game has the ability to roll as a substat, with 2 real exceptions. I'll say 3 exceptions. 3 exceptions. The first one is going to be that you can't have the same 2 of the same stat on one rune. Right, so we've got attack percent as the main on this rune. Attack percent cannot roll anywhere else. Okay, we've got HP, flat HP, as an innate stat on this rune. It cannot go anywhere else on this rune. Okay, you can't gem it in. You can't re-app it to have that. Flat, once it's there, it can only exist on the rune in one place. Okay, that's the first exception. Second exception, slot 1 cannot roll any defense stats. So no defense percent, no flat defense. They just don't allow it. It probably has something to do with overall stat balancing in the game, so certain stats can't get too high, I expect. And the third exception, slot 3 cannot have any attack stats. So no attack percent and no flat attack. Anything else is fair game. And on every other rune, every stat is fair game. Slot 5, you would think, oh, well, that's the other flat stat. It would have a restriction. It actually doesn't. It can roll with defense. It can roll with HP. It can roll with attack. It can roll anything. Okay? So that is kind of it for substats. Now, as we saw when we crafted that blue will rune, It came with 2 substats already. Conversely, the ultimate goal that we're farming for in this game is to have 6-star runes drop in a legend rarity. So they're already orange at +0. Okay, so they got 4 base substats. The reason we want that is we can look for runes that drop with 4 substats that are really, really valuable. Maybe not on one specific monster. They might be valuable on a few different monsters. You know, we might be trying to build a monster and it might drop with substats that are good for a different monster. That's okay. Right? And then as you power that rune up, as you guys saw, there's a random chance about any of those substats gaining increased value. And that is where runes can get really, really strong in this game, right? You look at a rune like this, and ultimately this is probably the fastest rune on my account right now. And you'll see the orange stats. They are grinded stats, okay? Gems and grinds are items that drop later in the game. You can get them from Labyrinth early game. You can also buy the immemorial packs, or if you are gone for 30 days or more and then log back in, you'll get the returning player bonus, which comes with a few immemorial gems and grinds, which can be used on any rune. But having these gems and grinds allows you to grind an additional range of stats onto a rune or gem, which is to replace. You can only gem once per rune. Well, you can gem multiple times, but only in one spot. Once we've chosen that spot, like I could never gem that accuracy out of this rune, as much as I'd like to. I could never gem the accuracy out of this rune. I could replace the HP value, but I could never leave the HP and gem something else on this specific rune. So these are the grinds that we have on the rune to increase the stats. But as you can see, we got 25 speed and 25 speed on this one. So this was a quad rolled. So all 4 of my power-ups, +3, +6, +9, and +12, they all rolled into speed. Now the maximum speed roll on a 6-star rune is 6. So in theory, if I would have hit maximum of 6 on every single one of my rolls, this actually could have been a 30 speed rune, which I would have just been over the moon with. Even still though, this is an incredible rune for my account. So that is what we ultimately look for. And so when you're playing early game, if you get a 6-star rune with a good main stat drop and it drops as an orange quality, keep it. Because later in the game, you'll get something called a re-app stone, which actually allows you to re-roll the 4 base substats into something else. And obviously as a legend grade rune, you're going to get the full range of rolls of up to +12, because you have to +12 the rune before you re-app. So you get that full range of rolls on there, whereas if you do it on, say, a green rune, you're only re-rolling that 1 base stat. It's just not. It's a terrible idea. You only use re-apps on legend grade runes. But again, that is for another video. Kind of. Don't waste your re-app stones on purple runes. Don't waste them on 5-star runes. Okay, this is a marathon. This takes years and years of farming to get a lot of really good runes, or spending a ton of money in the game buying rune packs, of course. But don't waste your re-app stones, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, save them for proper targets. And if you guys need help with that, there's lots of videos. You can pop by my Twitch channel and ask, or you can join us in Discord. Link is down in the description below, and say, hey, I post a screenshot. I've got this rune. Is it worth re-apping? And there's a lot of people in the community here that will say yay or nay on that. But Violent and Will are typically the runes that we're going to be re-apping, because they have the most versatility and provide the most value, and ultimately are probably the 2 most sought after rune sets as you push later into the game. Think long term, not short term. It's a very rare resource, especially early game. How to rune a monster. When we talk about how to rune a monster, you have to look at what is this monster's role? What purpose does it serve for me right now? What do I need it to do? Okay, so if we go and look at a monster that we're all going to be very familiar with and have early in the game, our Lapis here. How how you ruin her, she's going to be your primary damage dealer. She's going to be your primary farmer, okay? As you level her up, evolve her, and put better runes on her, I strongly recommend that you clear this scenario as fast as you can, because you're going to get a 6-star, already plus 15 Vampire Revenge set, and you put it on her, and she's going to be able to clear Fame and Hell by herself pretty much every single time, like guaranteed success. And so you can put 3 level 1-star monsters in there with her, and she will be able to level them all up, right? So she starts to become your leveler. She is how you build your monster pool on your account to start building teams, so that you can move into Giants B10 to farm, better Fatal, better Swift, better Despair, better Blade runes to make your monsters stronger, faster, tankier, so that you can move into DB10 and push further into TOA. So you guys can kind of see how the progression goes there. But when we're talking about this, so what do we need? We need to have enough HP and defense, or effective HP, on her to survive getting attacked by all of the monsters in Feyman, right? So she's water, they're fire, so she already has an elemental advantage. She will be crit once in a while. She might get defense broken from the Rogues or Fire Nugamis in there, okay? In the boss stage, everything gets the attack and crit rate buff, so they can do a lot of damage. You want her to have enough speed that she gets to go first, because then she has a good chance at killing something, right? Her third skill actually absorbs 25% of their attack bar, plus recovers HP based on the damage she deals. So, she can recover 25% attack bar from every single monster. Basically means, as long as she hits at least 4 of those monsters, she's getting her attack bar full again, so she gets another turn. And then can attack again. And she's got an AoE on her first skill as well. And this is kind of an AoE. It's a 4 hit, but it's random, the target. So if there's 5 or 6 enemies on the field, 2 at least aren't going to get hit. Some might get multi-hit and more won't get hit. But so obviously having enough HP and defense to survive, you need. Having enough speed to go first gives you a tremendous advantage at killing 1 or more enemies right off the bat. And then from there, it's increasing attack, critical hit chance, critical rate, and critical damage. Resistance and accuracy aren't very important for her. Yes, they can help accuracy specifically, but it's certainly not necessary. Okay, so I've got mine built a little bit differently than you guys will to start. I've got her on a Shield Despair set because I was using her in some PvP a very long time ago. I don't really use her anymore. I've got other monsters that I use for my farming that are a little bit faster than her. And that's something that you'll acquire later in the game, maybe even early game. Maybe you'll have a better farming monster early game, in which case then you put that best farming set on them. So you want to put your best rune set on your best monster to start, right? There's going to be a monster that carries you, so to speak. Okay, your carry monster should have your absolute best runes, whether it's a complete set or it's one set and a broken set, or full broken sets. It doesn't matter, as long as you're putting your best stats, so the most stats you can get on that monster, you're gonna find better success. Okay, this is especially important early game. So Lapis is going to be most people's carry monster for a decent amount of time into the game to get your farming, start leveling up your monsters, start leveling up evolution fodder, start leveling up your GB10 team. Okay, this is Lapis's purpose. So put those best runes on her. You're also probably at some point going to get a Fran. Okay, Fran and Lauren are 2 monsters that are, and Crow, the Dark Inugami. I'll go over them all here quick. Are monsters that you really want to try to get early on. They're farmable monsters, and they're going to really, really help with your early game progression and late game progression, to be honest. I still use them daily in many areas of content. So Fran, you can get her from the event coins that you acquire and buy her from the event coin shop. She is going to be your main healer support, okay? So you need her to be fast. She's got an attack buff with immunity that she applies to your whole team for 2 turns, okay? As well as does an AoE heal to the whole team The heal on both of her heals is based on your attack power. So you want her to be fast enough that she goes ahead of your damage dealers, so that your damage dealers get an attack buff before they get a turn. You want her to be tanky enough, because she's going to need to take a lot of hits. Obviously, if she's a healer, she needs to stay alive to heal. She's not meant to do a lot of damage, so we're not going to be putting crit rate or crit damage on her at all. Having attack in her substats is certainly very valuable. As you can see, I don't prioritize attack as a main stat because I want the tankiness. But you do want to have attack in your substats because that'll increase the potency of her heal. A little bit of accuracy isn't bad for her first skill, as it does have some debuff effects on it. But it is not at all a priority. This is a Fran that I use in late game PvP. Okay, do not expect to be hitting these stats early game, right? These are some pretty efficient runes for the most part. There's still room to make them even better, of course. And as you can see, she is on a violent and broken set. Even late game, you guys, we still use broken sets on things because I would rather hitting the stats is more important. You know, if I don't have, I would love to have her on revenge here, but you know, I need a really good revenge rune to replace this rune and keep those stats, and I don't have that available right now. Maybe one day I will. Hopefully one day I will, but right now I don't. So that is kind of Fran. Lauren is, you can get her. She's the light cowgirl. Okay, she's available through secret dungeon only. So on light dungeon days, keep an eye in chat. Try and get a cowgirl secret dungeon. You'll probably need 2 to 3 so you can get enough for skill ups for her, as well as you'll want a bonus one for fusion later on, and you might want a second bonus one just in case for later on. Okay, so keep in mind you might need about 3 secret dungeons worth, depending on how quickly you can clear them, to get enough of these cowgirls to fully skill this one up, as well as prep 2 others. She has a unique ability. Her passive is, she's very, very OP, actually. Very OP, used in right up to the, the top 100 in World Arena. Her passive applies to both of her attack skills, where she decreases the enemy's attack bar by 20% with each hit, as well as breaks their defense for 1 turn. Obviously, there's a 75% chance that's fine. Her second skill is a 2-hit. Also has a chance to strip a debuff, 1 debuff with each hit, and apply HP heal block. Her first skill hits 3 times, so with her passive, that's up to 60% attack bar reduction, and has a chance to slow the target. So, as you guys can imagine, her role is to defense break, to set up your damage dealers, and to keep the enemy from getting a turn. Keep pushing their attack bar back. So if she's super fast, she can keep lapping your enemy and never let them get a turn. This is really huge for GB10 boss. DB10 as well. But really for that GB10 boss, can keep him from ever getting his own turn. He'll only ever get to do his counterattack smash on a single target every 7 hits he takes. Because she's a multi-hitter, she's probably going to take a few hits from the boss in that, so she needs to be strong enough to survive. Okay, so she needs to have some tankiness to her. She is not meant to do any damage, even though she is an attack type unit. Her base attack is really low. All her stats are kind of low. Defense isn't bad. But primarily on her, you're looking for speed. So a swift set is really nice on her. Speed in slot 2 is an absolute necessity. HP, defense, or accuracy in slot 6 is good. HP defense in slot 4 is good as well. So she needs to be really tanky. She needs to have some accuracy so she can land her debuffs fairly reliably, and she needs to be as fast as possible. She is entirely okay with being the fastest monster in your box. Okay, the final monster I'm going to go over on kind of runing, and this should give you guys a pretty good idea of, priority runing monsters, is going to be Crow. Crow is the Dark Inugami. He is obtainable also through secret dungeons available on the Dark Dungeon days. Highly recommend you get him. He is really easy to skill up because Inugamis drop in several different scenarios, and you can summon them in mystical scrolls or unknown scrolls or elemental scrolls. they're very easy to come by, okay? And if you're running a lot of Fame and Hell, well, the Fire Nugami drops there. Also a monster I highly recommend you build early game. So he's easy enough to skill up. You want to Second Awaken him as soon as possible. I don't care if you can only clear stage 1, stage 2, whatever of the Dimensional Hole to Second Awaken him. It's worth it. He's going to be a huge, huge damage dealer. This guy does crazy, crazy damage. So you want to prioritize, you know, he needs to have a little bit of speed on it. So he moves before the enemy, of course. But primarily attack, crit rate, and crit damage. These are really the only stats that you really, really care about. Having a little bit of HP and defense is good. If you can find those in your substats, great. But you want attack, crit damage, attack on him with as much crit rate, attack, and crit damage in your substats as you can get, okay? He is completely fine to be on a broken set. As you can see, I've got him Rage Broken right now instead of Rage Blade. You can also have him on a fatal set, or you can just have him on an entirely broken set. It doesn't matter as long as you're getting as much, maximizing the attack, crit rate, and crit damage on him. Okay, if you need to lose 40 crit damage and 20 crit rate to put him on a fatal set to get an extra 200 attack, that might not be worth it. Okay, so bear that in mind when you're thinking about how to rune your units and to prioritize the stats that support the unit's kit and roll in your team as much as possible, you guys. That, maybe I should touch on Vertiheal too, because he is a unique unit that you're going to want to push into DB10. His passive ability is he gives your entire team 20% attack bar every time he lands a critical hit, okay? Both of his skills hit twice, so that's 40% attack bar every time. He gives your entire team, including himself, every time he lands a critical hit. What does that tell you? You probably want to have a 100% critical hit chance on him, because then against anything other than a water monster, he is guaranteed to crit, unless they've got an anti-crit buff, of course, or a passive like a Chroma. And then he's always going to give your team an additional 40% attack bar. You can also rune him so that he is probably the slowest monster on your team. So after your entire team gets their turn and does their thing, he goes, boosts their attack bar up by 40% and puts them in a really good position to either move a second time before the enemy even gets a turn, or move right after the enemy, go again, and then move a third time before the enemy gets a second turn. Maximizes your kill potential and can really help to minimize how much incoming damage you're facing, and you can just start clearing content without ever taking damage. So that is kind of the role he is meant to have. Again, he's an attack type unit, but you prioritize crit rate on him, and you obviously need him to be tanky enough to survive some hits. He's not meant to be a major damage dealer. I really hope that that answered a lot of your questions about runes from an early game standpoint, what runes are, how they kind of work, and where to prioritize them on your units, as well as gives you a little bit of a glimpse of, you know, what runes I might want to keep for the future. This might not have a great use right now, but I can roll it in the future. And one thing that I will strongly recommend to everybody is, you know, like if we go and craft another rune here, if this rune looks like it has, oh, it rolled flat HP. That's too bad. But it still rolled speed as an innate stat. So as I said before, this is actually a really good example. I'm sad for my account that this rolled flat HP. If this rolled HP percent, I would just be over the moon excited right now, because this would actually be a really, really OP rune. But flat HP, as I said before, is not really something you're going to look for, right? Like, I have zero use for a flat HP slot 6. However, if this has 4 rolls go into speed, knowing that maximum roll is 6, this rune could actually have a 28 speed base on it. On monsters that are meant to take first turn because they boost your team's attack bar up, like Bernard or Kabila or Megan, Bastet, any of these monsters that boost your team's attack bar so that your team can move before the enemy, and that is their primary role, is to boost attack bar and go first, this rune could actually be really good for that, right? So this is a rune that fits into the final example that I just thought of that I wanted to share. Don't just look at it and be like, oh, I don't have an immediate use for this, or it looks like it could be crap. Look at its maximum potential. Does its maximum potential have a place on one of your monsters? Or is it better than some of the other runes you have that might go on a new monster you're either farming for or hoping for or might get in the future? Okay, familiarize yourself with different monsters out there and what they do as you encounter them. But this one, as I said, it could roll 28 speed, so it is entirely worth it to roll it +3, +6, and see how the rune pans out. You know, if you get if you get a blue rune to drop, it's got one stat that you really want and one stat that is absolute garbage. Roll it to +3. Does it go into the stat you want? Yeah, cool. Roll it to +6. Does it go into the stat you want again? Awesome. This might be a really good rune. Right? Keep powering it up. Go to that, take that first step and go to the next step if necessary. Mana comes and goes in this game. Mana, if you've got a ton of mana like I do, you're probably late game, and you do a ton of rune farming. All my runes on my account are like +9 or above already, but try to power it up. Okay, it's worth the mana to do so, because as Wayne Gretzky once said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Take the shot. See if it hits what you need it to hit. Okay, this rolled into defense. Now that's 2 maximum rolls into defense. That's actually really nice. This could potentially become a really good world boss rune. That's a separate thing. World boss is a very unique mechanic, and this would go in a monster that you never ever use if that's the case. But you know, if this hits 3 rolls into speed, it still has a 22%. Okay, now it's no good to me, right? Depending where you are in the game, this might still be good for you. This might still be good for a potential for a Bernard or a Megan boost type unit, okay? For me, the most it can get is to 16 speed now, and that is just nowhere near fast enough to qualify going on one of those units for me. I've already got faster runes, so that's a sell for me now. But there's nothing wrong with that, right? We spent a little bit of mana to power it up to see if it was going to be good. That could have easily rolled into speed twice right there, and I would be willing to wanting very much to keep going with it. I've had that happen before. So if a rune has potential to be good, look at its maximum potential. That is why I'm linking the Reddit document down below in the description here, so you can see what the range rolls are for things. And if a rune has potential to be good, power it up and see. With that, we're going to end the video, you guys. As always, please be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment below if you have any questions, if there's anything I missed, if you need clarification on anything. You can also reach out in Discord that is linked down below, and you can come see me live on Twitch 3 days a week. My schedule is on Twitch. We stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Very much helps me out, you guys, and we've got some exciting videos coming up in the near future, so you'll want to be around for those. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when those videos drop, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Happy summoning.